Well, college students got a chance to interact with hardened inmates at the pen today. Those inmates included a man locked up for crimes you might remember right here in the Tri-Cities. Gina Lazar is in Walla Walla, and she learned how he is trying to turn his life around through events like these.
Kevin Kafiev is getting ready for his turn to take the podium. He is arguing on behalf of a person's right to anonymity on the internet. It's a topic assigned for a debate between college students and inmates.
Like the news people. So
yeah, exactly.
All right. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Well, I mean, is this going to be an all-nighter? Because if it is, you guys are going to wrap the paper for me that's due tomorrow.
You would think I'm used to being watched all day, that this would be.
Right?
So if you can say kind of what I've been, if I'm talking about...
Reiterate what you were talking about.
That'd be
okay.
so great.
All right, so will you just start by telling us your name?
Scott?
My name's Robinson Escobar Edwards.
Joseph Field.
Okay. So
call me Joe.
Joe, okay.
Yeah.
I dropped out of school, went into service, got kicked out of there, and just one thing led after another.
I don't know if you're familiar with ACEs. So adverse childhood experiences. So I fit, it's a scale 0 to 10. I fit in the 10 range. So I've had a lot of abuse in my life.
I was high school actually. I was a super senior. I flunked my senior year, so I was doing really horrible in school. At one point I decided to give up because I didn't think the education was important and I could make more money just working as a dishwasher.
Started using when I was younger, and it really didn't become a problem until I was about 18 when I kind of went off the deep end. I'd actually dipped into the Marine Corps, and 3 months before my ship out date, I caught my first felonies. And so I just kind of started this chain reaction, and 6 years later, here I am.
I was a social alcoholic. In my case, corks and caps were for shipping purposes only. When I'd get out there and knock off a couple, I wouldn't stop.
As I turned 15, 16, I started getting into trouble, drinking, and that's sort of where my life started turning around, going bad. And so one thing led to another, drinking, having a gun. It was just the end was about to happen. And unfortunately, I shot 3 people.
It's made to allow the individual to think, to reflect back on what they've done wrong and the changes they need to make in their life. It's meant to cause that pain, that separation from your family, separation from all that you know. Being in a subservient manner where you have to listen to somebody else and not do what you want. So it's supposed to exact thought in the individual. In doing so, also give them the tools in order to make them change, allow them the ability to change.
In a sense, I could say it saved me because you don't know what route I could have went. I could be dead. Could be dead from drinking, drugs, whatnot. So it sucks that I got locked up, but the knowledge that I've gained could be, monumental compared to where I could be right now.
I mean, I think two things make it difficult. One is not just the uniformity of it, but the way that everything has to be designed for the lowest common denominator. 99 guys out of 100 are going to be very happy eating their food with forks, but there's going to be the one person that's going to use that as a weapon. So then everyone needs to get plasticware instead.
As much as I hate it, this place does everything for you, you know? And honestly, even though that can be looked at as a good thing, it's the part that I hate the most, because you really don't have very many opportunities to make your own way.
People aren't confronted very often, if ever, by the reality of what the prison system is. Most people are never inside and they have no idea what it really means to lock someone up for 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years.
I think there was a trend in this country in the 1980s through a shift in our criminal justice policies, some through our drug policies, some through mandatory sentencing and laws like 3 strikes you're out, which put individuals for relatively low-grade crimes, often even not felonies, behind bars for multiple years at a time. And I think it's really important to remember that the United States incarcerates more of its population than anywhere else in the world, and by a lot.
People that live out here, 91 or 2% committed their crime under the influence of drugs or alcohol.
Every single person I talk to has had some kind of drug abuse.
You know, if you're taught certain characteristics, if you're taught certain moral ethics, values, and an understanding of that, you're probably not going to get in trouble. You know, but saying as much, there's people who claim not to have the opportunity because of maybe it's finances, maybe it's, you know, the environment in which they grew up in, maybe it was foster care, whatever the case may be. But I think that's where the problem has stemmed.
I grew up in a very dysfunctional home. I would say most of my family went to prison. I shot heroin for 25 years, in and out of. I probably spent roughly around 12 years of my life locked up because it's hard. Being an addict and trying to get in recovery is hard.
The individualism that our political culture emphasizes makes it hard for people to accept that there are also other factors that contribute to criminal behavior. And I think people don't understand how those could both be true, that we could have a sense of personal responsibility and also think that addiction is something that calls for treatment, not punishment, that adverse childhood experiences can have a significant predictive effect on who's going to become addicted, on who's going to commit crimes.
I had one of the unit managers call me and he said, "Boy, we got a problem here and a bunch of these guys are all grouping up in the day room." And I said, "Well, what are they doing?" He said, "They're studying." And it was the start of the A-degree program. This is the truth. He said, "We've got 2 or 3 different cultures and they're all down studying." I said, "You've got the worst possible gang. You've got the education gang starting." And he thought I was being a smart aleck.
Depending on the prisons and what they offer will really dictate the benefit of even being locked up. And like I've said before, education, programming, even just being able to work is beneficial in here.
I did, 18 years, 7 months, and a handful of days. So I worked in the chow hall, I worked in the kitchen, I worked in maintenance, I worked in the units.
Here we have the teddy bear program where inmates sew teddy bears and stuffed dogs and animals to give to communities. I'm actually part of it. Yeah, so not only on the debate club, I'm also making teddy bears. God, there goes my resume.
With the debate format, what I like about it is that the Whitman students and the WSP debaters are working together collaboratively. It's not about forcing you to regurgitate information or treating you like some sort of passive object.
So what we do at our facility is if a offender comes to us and he doesn't have a high school diploma or a GED, it's mandated that he will go to class.
Growing up, I went to the juvenile institutions, so every time I got out of there, I became a better criminal on how to be smarter, how to get away, do things faster and all that. And I never really learned anything, but this time I feel like I've learned a lot.
So prison's structured. You know when you got to shower, go to the yard, do this, that. Education is the same way. You got to do your homework. You know you have to be at class at this time. You know, it's just a structured environment.
I TA in the morning for the GED class, then I come to school in the afternoon, and I also come to the school at night, working on my bookkeeping certificate and my AA degree. So the time outside of class is spent doing homework or reading in preparation for another homework assignment.
Because if I didn't go through this and then I jumped into a college class on the streets, I'd probably fail. I'd be like, yeah, I don't know anything. But having to do 3-4 hours of homework, which is amazing for me because I never did anything like that, but the fact that I was able to graduate with a 3.6, something that I've never done, is just, it's amazing. I can do it as long as I really put my mind to it.
This is like one of the only things that I've actually fully followed through with, like, so therefore I give it a lot of credit into my growth and my success. Like if I didn't have education, I don't know, I might be big as hell, like I'd be buff or something, but other than that, I don't see anything else coming out of it.
And there's one thing that we know is that education is almost always positively correlated with incarcerated individuals' hopefulness, their ability to be paroled, their ability to come out of the system.
They build up this kind of cultural capital, this way of speaking, to new vocabulary, new ways of thinking. I think it's really beneficial to them. And once they start believing that that's who they can be, it's amazing change you see in some of these guys.
We just did a study of a bunch of our AA degree completers, and we have about 200 completers now, a little more than that. And the group that is out, 54% are continuing on in school.
We want these men to come out in a better space than when they went in, so we don't have to pay the $40,000 a year to take care of them again. And if you think about how much money it is for a man to leave prison and then to be arrested again and go through the trial process again, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars being spent in that process. And then you put them in prison and it's another $40,000 a year. If they stayed out, pay taxes, even if they had a job that didn't pay a whole lot, it saves so much money.
They gave you guys a spiel on how we're manipulators and con men and we're just criminals, you know what I'm saying? That's a stereotype that I've learned to be untrue. Like, not everybody, we're not all bad people, just we made bad decisions, some made bad choices, but we're not all bad people.
Every swinging person in this world can make a mistake and wind up in prison and wind up with that stigma of being a convicted felon.
Most people think of them as beyond help. They think of them as animals who are running around trying to kill each other. Prison life's a lot more boring than that.
One of the things that I really try to do when I meet somebody new is let them get to know me before they find out about my past. Because the person that I was, 23 years ago, is nowhere near the person I am today.
When you get out there to society, it doesn't matter what you did. You're still a criminal. You're still going to be judged. And like I said before, you're just going to have to prove yourself that you're not one of those people and that you made a mistake, you had a problem, and you're trying to change.
I've said it before and I live by it, since I've been down, is that prison doesn't define a person. It's what we do after that will define us.
What most people don't understand is 95% of the inmates in a facility, our facility or any other one, are going to get out. 95%. It's probably higher than that, 97, 98.
I got released from Coyote Ridge in Connell, and they loaded 3 of us up in a van, drove us to Pasco, dropped us off at the bus station, and they boned out of there and went back to work. I don't hide from the fact that I did time. I don't hide from that at all. I made a mistake. I paid for it. And truthfully, I'm still paying for it. When I went to my interview, she starts asking me about my work history. At that point, I have no choice but to disclose the fact that I had been to prison. The interviewer looked at me and was like, well, you know, my experience is anybody convicted of a felon, doesn't matter what it is, they don't get hired. And we weren't even halfway through the interview, and she looked at me, she goes, we can stop the interview right now.
A gentleman that was in my office, he was in his 40s. He had been going out looking for employment every day. When he came in to my office the first time, he was excited, but he was scared because he had just been released. And he was like, you know, I did all my schooling when I was in there, and I did all these things, and I know it's going to be hard, but I'll get a job. And so we had him in housing for a few months, and then the funding was gone for that. And he sat there and he said, you know, the truth is that I can make 2 phone calls and I can make $700 in 20 minutes and I can pay my rent. He said, but I don't want to do that anymore. And the unfortunate thing is that we didn't have any other resources for him, and it was only a few weeks after that that we really lost contact with him, and then the last time I heard that he was back out dealing again.
We don't give felons a house. How are they going to shower, bathe, and eat to get to work or school? But other felons feel the same way. We just go back to what we know, right? So we got to eat, we got to pay rent, we got to supply our drugs, so we do crimes.
True story, I've seen people get out at breakfast and be back for dinner mainline. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous.
When there's so many barriers to people doing the right thing, people will survive. And that might mean breaking into your house or my car or selling drugs. But they will do what it takes for them to survive.
So talking to me just now, if you didn't know I was incarcerated, an inmate, a convict, you probably would never know, right? But if you ran a background check on me, you would go, oh shit.
So this is a marker that stays with an individual for an incredibly long amount of time. And I think that's precisely why it's so important for educational programs not just to go in prisons and work with the incarcerated, but to work in our communities, to talk about what incarceration means.
In this group on Friday, we were talking with a couple of the STAR clients in the afternoon after we'd come outside the prison. And one of the members of the group asked the clients, you know, so say I'm your neighbor, what would you want me to do? What could I do to help? And what they ended up saying is, like, just treat us like normal people. Like, say hello. Like, if you see that there's some kind of problem, offer to help. Like, basically just like be a neighbor and not just someone like living next door, you know, wishing the problem would go away.
How would you want your kids treated like that? Not necessarily you. Your kid could have a problem, go to prison, or go sit in the county jail and get out. It doesn't matter. They're still a convicted felon. How are you going to feel having to fight tooth and nail to try and help your kid out because they can't get anything over here because society keeps shutting the doors in everybody's face?
Anonymous internet could prove to be an unchecked playground for those who seek to act maliciously with no regard for the safety or one's reputation and character.
In 2007, 127 million sensitive electronic and paper records containing Social Security numbers were stolen. This is a 650% increase from the previous year. According to Computer Security Institute and the FBI, 70% of companies experience cyber attacks.
Allowing it to serve
global users of the internet and maintain anonymity. This styling has been successful within the world leader through organizations like the United Nations. When my fiance became pregnant with my daughter, who is now born, was born three months after I got locked up. So that's kind of when my world changed.
My mom, she said that I understand you better now than when we were on the streets. Because when I was on the streets, I was just an alcoholic who didn't do nothing.
People do grow and people do learn. Therefore, I mean, when I get out, if you want to be the person to look at me as I'm a felon and I'm a criminal and you don't want to actually give me an opportunity to prove you otherwise, then that's just on you, you know what I'm saying? You missed out on, you know what I'm saying? I got blessed, and I can be a blessing for you, just like you can be a blessing for me.
I don't want the lasting impression to be that, you know, Chemo went to prison and that was it. You know, I'd like it to be, oh yeah, you know, the guy was wild, but he got it right.
In order to make it, you need two things. You need the perseverance to do it. You got to have the willpower to want to do it, and you got to have the support to help you stand up when you do fall down. And believe me, I fell down.
Prison changes you regardless of how sane you try to stay. It's just you gotta stay happy, smiling. Like on my ID, I smile, because this is my life, but I'm not gonna let it bring me down. So changing for the better and changing for the worse is gonna be your decision.
This lady, Kobe, she said, you ever think about education? And I laughed at her and told her, you're high. You gotta be drug tested, because there ain't no way I quit in 7th grade. I'm dumb, I'm a junkie, and I'm a criminal. There's no way I can do school. She said, well, take a pretest. And I said, so I took it, and she said, man, you don't need glasses, you're smart. So today I'm at Wawa U, graduating this year with a sociology degree, and just got accepted into the Masters of Social Work program. Yeah. So, convict to educator. What else?